Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. Today we are going to be digging a well with our excavator. For any of you guys who are new, let me catch you up real quick on what's going on. So we have 3 ponds on this property. We have one up in front of the house. You can see the back side of the dam there. This is pond number 2. This pond was full 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then we have pond number 3 on the other side of that little gravel road right there. And pond number 1, we've had trouble getting it to fill for the last 3 years. We had a slight leak in the bottom. I think I'm going to go on a limb here and say that that problem is fixed. It appears as though we've gone 2 or 3 weeks with no rain and the water level has not dropped more than about a ½ an inch. So I feel pretty confident about that. But this pond was full about 3 weeks ago, and we have a solar powered well pump from RPS Solar. It's a 1.5 horsepower pump with a 2-inch black poly pipe that's running up there. And what I have going on right now, my temporary solution just to get water pumped out of here and up to pond number 1, was I just have that sitting on a pallet in the bottom of the pond to keep it suspended up off the bottom so we're not sucking dirt and grime into that pump. But what I want to do today is I want to dig in sort of like a dry hydrant, right? So I'm going to have a vertical pipe going right down here to an elbow going out into the bottom of the pond, and then I'm going to have another elbow with a short little piece that's going to act as a filter to keep, very similar to what I have on the end of the well pump here. I've got just a, I don't know, 3 or 4 foot piece of PVC with a bunch of holes in it, drilled like Swiss cheese, and then a piece of 40 mesh on the outside of there to keep from sucking things into the pump. So that's what we're going to work on today, is create a more permanent setup here than just having this hose, you know, running up through the grass. We're going to trench everything in. That's enough talking. Let me just show you what we're going to do. All right, so we got our trench dug here. As you can see, we go back about 20 feet. Hopefully this is fairly flat along the bottom. And then we're gonna go up about 8 or 9 feet or so, have an elbow in the bottom there. Just a word of caution, if you're ever doing something like this or digging a deep trench, do not ever walk back into a trench like this, because those walls are very unstable. You could end up getting buried or crushed. So there's your little safety tip of the day. We're gonna go ahead and start getting all of our pipes and fittings glued together. All right, so now we have an 8-foot deep well. So as the water level in the pond comes up and hopefully covers that, actually not hopefully, I know it will, we have probably at least another 5 or 6 feet of water to add to this pond. And that piece of pipe right there is only 3 feet. So that will be probably under a foot or 2 of water. And once we get this all done and installed and everything, I will never drain the pond down this low again. My plan is to never take this pond down low enough that you would see that white cap. But as the water level rises, it will filter into that white piece of pipe there, and water will always find equilibrium. So whatever water level the pond is, it will also be the same exact level inside this pipe here. And this is where we're going to drop our well pump down. Now, I don't just want that 2-inch black poly pipe coming up out of the top and riding above the ground like it is now, because in the wintertime that will freeze. So we're going to go ahead and put a pitless adapter in, and that's why I haven't backfilled the rest of this here, so I have access to the side of our makeshift well casing. If you've never seen a pitless adapter, I'll show you how it works right now. All right, so if you have a well, you most likely have a pitless adapter, and if you haven't seen it before, this is what it looks like. There's 4 or 5 different pieces here. This assembly lives on the inside of the well. This is on the outside of the well casing. And how this works, let me just show you real quick. So this will go on the inside of the well casing, and we will drill a 3-inch hole, and this will poke through the side. And then if you look at this piece, it is rounded and curved to fit on the outside, and then we will go ahead and lock this together. And there is another rubber grommet here so that you have a watertight seal between these two. Okay, now what goes on the inside is these 2 pieces that slide together, and if you look, there is a rubber gasket on the inside. So when this slides down in, again, this is going to be fixed on the inside of the pipe, so when you're dropping your pump down into the well casing, it's just going to slide right down in. And the reason that you do this is so if you ever need to service your pump, if it's broken or if it's plugged up or clogged, you can easily pull it back out, and now you can take your well pump, the line, and everything and service it or replace it without having to dig everything all back up again. So that is kind of a down and dirty of how a pitless adapter works with a well pump. Now we need to go and drill our 3-inch hole in the side of our well casing that we have in the ground. All right, so now you might be asking yourself, how are we going to get this from here down to the hole we drilled in our well casing? And good news is I have a friend who has done this exact same thing. Adam from Indie Farm Life also has a YouTube channel, also got a solar well pump from RPS Solar. Now the stakes were a little bit higher when he did his because he had a 180-foot deep well. Ours is only about 8 feet deep. So if he were to drop this to the bottom as well, it's probably gone forever. If I drop this, it would be a pretty big inconvenience, but I could still get to it. So what he did was tied a rope. Actually, no, I think he dropped his rope all the way down in and created a loop, and then put the fitting in there and lowered it down just so you could control it and not have it drop all the way to the bottom. Attach these 2 points, and then once you get it all the way down, you can kind of fish your hand in there, grab it, and pull it through, and then pull the rope out. So it does make me kind of nervous because if I do drop it down there, it's going to be a pretty big pain in the butt. Okay, here we go. Yeah, now I know that feeling, Adam. I remember you kind of cringing when you did this too, that let it go feeling. Yikes. Okay, I've got it through the hole. Now I just need to undo this rope and not drop it. All right, so we've got our pitless adapter all installed now. Here's what it looks like on the outside of the pipe. And then what will happen is this 2-inch insert by male adapter will thread into one end of the pitless adapter. The black poly pipe will go onto the end of this hose barb with some hose clamps. And then we'll have the same thing going from the well pump up to the bottom of the pitless adapter. So we are going to need to go ahead and cut that black poly pipe. I've already got it measured, so we're going to cut that. I expect a ton of water to come rushing out because that pump does have a check valve in it, so that line is still full of water. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this down inside the pipe or not, but that is what the inside of the pitless adapter looks like. The other end that's going to hook up to the black poly pipe will just slot right in down into that groove. So if you ever need to pull the pump, you can just pull it right out. It just slides in, slides out, no tools required. Now again, I expect a lot of water to come out of this pipe. So once we get it cut, we're going to let it drain for a little bit. Yep, there we go. Whew. There we go, and we are seated all the way down in there now. Now, if you noticed, there is a loop on the well pump itself for a safety rope. So if all else fails, you've got something else tied to that pump that you could try to yank it out with. Simply unscrew it from the top of the pitless adapter. There we go. Well pump installed. All right guys, so we got all of our plumbing done down at pond number 2. The well pump is in, the casing is done, the pitless adapter. All we have left to do now is get this 2-inch black poly pipe trenched in under the ground. And we're gonna try something I have never seen anybody else do before. And that is run a trencher made for a skid loader on the end of an excavator. And this is all gonna be made possible by our Baumalight XQS10.
And of course neighbor Doug for letting me borrow his trencher.
This is a skid steer quick attach mounting plate for our excavator here. And I'll tell you what, I use this thing more frequently than I thought I would. Normally I use it probably the most for pallet forks. Occasionally I will take a skid loader quick attach auger and put it on here. But this is the first time I am going to be trying a trencher. So we're gonna see how this works. I did have to get some hydraulic hose extensions. You can see right here to right here, about an extra 2 feet, because what you need for a skid loader, that distance between, you know, the power head there and my auxiliary ports on the excavator are a little bit further away than they would be on a skid loader. But other than that, I think this should work pretty well, and I'm hoping I'm gonna have a little bit better visibility than I would in a skid loader. So let's see how this goes. So it's the next morning. Last night before dark we finished getting the trench dug from pond number 2 all the way up to the road, and then from pond number 1 all the way down to this shaly area here. That trencher is not going to work great to cross this road because it's all clay and rock, so we're going to go ahead and swap out the trencher for the 1-foot trenching bucket and dig the rest of this like you would with a normal excavator. In case you're wondering how I've been crossing this road for the last 3 weeks with this pipe coming up here, you can see I just took 2 slabs off of the sawmill, and well actually 1 slab, and I cut it in half. That way I've got a little bit of a radius on this side to get over and a radius on this side to get over, and then ran the pipe in between. That was actually neighbor Doug's idea, and I thought it was a pretty good one. If you ever got to, you know, cross a road or something like that, it makes a nice little speed bump to be able to get over it and not crush that pipe. Got our trench dug from pond number 1 down to pond number 2. And if you're wondering why we put a trencher on an excavator that is already designed to be a pretty darn good trenching machine, reason is, look at the difference between the two trenches. This one is a much cleaner, neater, tidier, less disturbed soil trench than what we do with the 12-inch bucket. That's about as small of a trenching bucket as you're going to get is 12 inches, unless you've got a smaller machine, of course. But I mean, just look at how much more material we had to take out of this with the excavator versus what that trencher did. So it's going to be a lot less cleanup on the back end of backfilling it once we get our line in here. I don't really think there's a time savings one way or the other. It's, you know, trenching is a pretty slow, tedious process to begin with. The trencher versus the excavator bucket's not going to make one bit of difference either way. But the whole reason why you'd want to use a trencher is just to make the cleanup and the total disturbance of the whole project a lot less than doing it with a bucket.
Now most of this pipe is good to just backfill with the native soil that we took out of the ditch, but in and around this road, it's very, very rocky. I'm backfilling with sand to make sure we don't pop a hole in the side of that pipe.
All right, there we go. We got our water line in. Now we have an extra probably 50 or 60 feet of water line. I'm not going to cut that off yet because I don't know what I'm going to do with it, where I want to have it outflow into the pond. So at least right now I have options. I'll just snake that around down into the pond. But I'll tell you what, that is the smoothest I have ever dug a trench and backfilled it. I don't think I'm ever going to dig a trench with the 12-inch bucket on the excavator again. I think from now on I am strictly going to be using a trencher, whether that's on the excavator or a skid loader or a mini skid steer. But the amount of time that that saved me in backfilling was incredible, and it came out really nice too. I think I backfilled this whole section here in probably 10-15 minutes, and then this section that we dug with the bucket from, you know, right here to the end of the driveway over there is probably 40 or 50 feet long, and it took me just as long to do this section right here as it did the whole rest of it that we did with the trencher. Probably 50 or 60 feet here, and then probably another 150 feet. So 3 times as much with the trencher that we got done in the same amount of time. And, you know, this obviously looks like a lot more disturbed area. You can see how wide out I had to go to get everything smoothed back out and fixed. Whereas with that trencher, it's literally a path the size of the land plane on the tractors, all the more that got disturbed. So I am very happy with that. Would I use that again on an excavator? I don't know. When you start getting into some rocks, it can start bouncing you around just because you've got so much room in between the trencher and the actual cab of the machine. I think I'd probably leave this on a skid loader. You know, the skid loader is just built, you know, much more stout and sturdy, having this so much closer to the frame of the machine. You just got a lot of room in between here and the cab of the excavator. So a lot more wiggle, slop, play when you start bouncing around hitting rocks. But as far as where we left things down here with pond number 2, I still have the well casing. I didn't backfill it all the way because I need to get a well casing head cover here so that I can tidy up, you know, my safety rope and my electrical wire. I want to tuck that and backfill it down the side of the pipe there. So I just left this little bit open. I've got some dirt here to get that backfilled, but we can go ahead and start getting this filled back up now. You know, I was keeping this kind of low because I needed to get in here to do this work, but I think what I want to do is I'm not going to turn the pump on from RPS Solar again until this is full. And probably what I'll do is I'll start running that 1 or 2 days a week or something to fill the upper pond. As the water level in here comes up, this should be about 2 feet underwater, I'm thinking. And as that water level comes up, it'll be right about here somewhere. And that will find equilibrium within this pipe, and then our well pump should be plenty sufficiently submerged in water to start pumping water again. So looking forward to getting this thing filled back up again. One thing we're doing to expedite that process of filling this pond is we've got this reservoir of water here in pond number 3, and we've got our 3/4 horsepower pump from Harbor Freight down there, submersible utility pump, and we're using our DJI Power 1000 portable power station to run it out here where there is no power. And as you can see, putting out a nice little bit of water there. I understand that a garden hose is not going to fill this in any kind of efficient manner, but for the time being, just a little bit here and there, come down, plug in the power station and move some water. So we have had a really dry September and October, and already a beginning into November. It's been very, very dry here, which has been awesome for getting projects like this done. But I think I'm pretty much done with the dirt moving that I need to do this year. And I'm kind of hoping we get some rain because I want to see all 3 of these ponds get full. So here's to hoping for some rain. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.